Thus, the king, Maharaj Parikshit, sat to fast until death. All the demigods of the higher planets praised the king's actions, and in pleasure continually scattered flowers over the earth and beat celestial drums. Purport. Even up to the time of Maharaj Parikshit, there were interplanetary communications, and the news of Maharaj Parikshit's fasting unto death to attain salvation reached the higher planets in the sky where the intelligent demigods live. Without television, without radio, without internet, there was communication. The demigods are more luxurious than human beings, but all of them are obedient to the orders of the Supreme Lord. There is no one in the heavenly planets who is an atheist or non-believer. Thus, any devotee of the Lord on the surface of the earth is always praised by them. And in the case of Maharaj Parikshit, they were greatly delighted and thus gave tokens of honor by scattering flowers over the earth and by beating celestial drums. A demigod takes pleasure in seeing someone go back to Godhead. He is always pleased with a devotee of the Lord, so much so that by his adidaivic powers he may help the devotees in all respects. And by their actions, the Lord is so pleased with them. And by their actions, the Lord is pleased with them. There is an invisible chain of complete cooperation between the Lord and the demigods and the devotee of the Lord on earth. So there's already a connection between the demigods and all of us because all our senses are connected to the demigods. Each sense has a controller. The mind is controlled by Aniruddha. False ego is controlled by Lord Shiva. I can't remember who all the senses are controlled by. The different demigods control. Vayu, I believe, controls some, maybe. Anyway, so we're already connected to the demigods. And sometimes we read in Shastra that when a devotee becomes powerful, some of the demigods, perhaps Indra or others, feel that they will lose their position and they try to do something to hinder, to stop that devotee from becoming powerful. But that is only in certain exceptions, certain cases. But here we're learning how the demigods like it when they see someone advancing. And they help. And that's the meaning of demigod. What does Prabhupada say? He said, on these higher planets, there's no atheists. There's no non-believers. No mlechas, no yavanas. So what I find interesting about this verse, and I think very important for us, is how when the demigods see another devotee advancing, they're happy. When we see another person making progress, if we're of the asuric mentality, we don't become happy. Do we? That is the asuric mentality. So here, very clearly, we are seeing the mentality of the sura, the devotee. Of course, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta, he wrote his song, Vaishnava ke? What kind of devotee am I? And that song was written because we are practicing sadhana bhakti, but not always acting like a bhakta. So the question, the devotee says, if I see another devotee advancing, but I am not happy, then a devotee should ask himself the question, what kind of devotee am I? Right? If someone's advancing and I'm not happy, what kind of devotee am I? Or perhaps we could ask another question. Am I even a devotee? You know, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Rupa Goswami had received the great mercy of Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu asked the other devotees to show their mercy or their kind wishes and blessings to him. So they were all very happy that he got the mercy of the Lord. And they all were very happy to shower affection and appreciation upon him. That's the character of a Vaishnava. So Srila Prabhupada said in Los Angeles that if somebody is envious, if somebody is jealous, they're not devotees. Maybe third-class devotee at best. But technically speaking, Prabhupada was saying, an envious, a jealous person is asura, as we're learning here, because the suras are not envious. So it must be, if you're envious, if I'm envious, if we're envious, it must mean asura. Asuri bhavam. That's explained in the Gita, right? Asuri bhavam. The nature of demons. Envious. And then Prabhupada said, if you're envious, if you're jealous, then you live in the material world. You don't, and if you're not envious, if you're not jealous, you live in the spiritual world. How do we understand? Well, we understand there is no material envy or jealousy in the spiritual world. But material envy and jealousy exist in this world. And therefore, if you want to go to that world, you have to practice living and thinking as the residents of that world. And if you practice living and thinking like the residents of this world, this is the world where we stay. Just like Krishna Katha. There's Krishna Katha and there's Gramya Katha. Gramya Katha you find in the newspaper, on the news and in the magazines. And when you talk to people, how are you? How's the wife? How's the child? Any new children? Any new grandchildren? Just news of this world. So if we become addicted to news of this world, then this is the world we live in, this is the world we stay. This is the language, Gramya Katha. It's the language of this world. If you speak the language of this world, this is the world you live in. This is the world you stay in. It's that simple. That's why there's so much stress on Krishna Katha. Because if you speak Krishna Katha, then that's the world you live in. You can't go there if you're speaking the language of this planet. Does that make sense? The language of this world is where you stay. So the behavior of this world is jealousy and envy. And the behavior of the spiritual world is affection, devotion, service. What kind of Vaishnava am I? A very good question. And then a devotee takes some inventory or analyzes or looks at his behavior, at his characteristics, his qualities, and his actions. And then by looking at these things, and of course, ultimately we look at our own heart, then we can better answer this question. What kind of devotee am I? Now, there's two things that are important to understand. In the stage of bhajana kriya, there are a lot of remnants of non-devotional thinking within our consciousness, within our heart. Because that is what we bring. Just like if you live near the sea, you go to the beach and when you come home, you bring sand into your house. So you wash your feet before you... Still, there's some sand that gets in there. So we come to Krishna consciousness, we bring some sand. Right? We all bring some sand. Some bring more sand than others, but we all bring some. What is the sand? What we're describing here is some of the sand. Envy, jealousy, desire for position, desire to be known, recognized, so forth. So, on the stage of bhajana kriya, the stage of practice, when you begin bhakti and you practice, there's still a lot of sand around. It's only on the stage of anartha nivritti in which most of the sand is cleared away. So what do you do on the stage of bhajana kriya when the sand is there? You're probably thinking, you're hearing this verse and you're thinking, but Prabhu, sometimes I find when another devotee excels, maybe it's a junior devotee, or maybe it's another devotee that I don't like so much, or maybe it's another devotee that I don't think is so qualified. But if they excel, sometimes I become envious. I don't become happy. I become unhappy. That happens. We're not perfect. Why did he have to get it? Why did she have to get it? I'm better than them. Why didn't I get it? It happens. Right? It's the sand. So, in Prabhupada's books, he describes the Uttama. The Uttama Bhakta, he has no propensity for envy or criticism. That desire does not enter his mind. But the Madhyam has it, but he doesn't exhibit it. In other words, it's there, but he doesn't do anything. Like maybe you have a sore on your arm, and you feel like scratching it, but if you scratch it, it gets worse, so you don't scratch it. But it itches. So envy may be there, but the Madhyam, he doesn't act on it. And the Kanishta, he acts on it. Therefore, interesting point. It is said that fault finding happens on the level of Kanishta. Because Kanishta doesn't care about the other devotees. It's just God, and Prabhupada said, sometimes it's just Guru. God and Guru, nobody else. Got me, and there's God, there's my Guru, everybody else, who cares? That's Kanishta. So in that Kanishta consciousness, that's the foundation for fault finding. We don't value the association of Vaishnavas. On the Madhyam platform, you value the association of Vaishnavas. So even though the propensity is to criticize, you don't. You control it. And maybe even the person that you feel like you want to criticize, maybe you decide to serve them. That's Madhyam. You might even glorify them. You might even go up to them and say, Prabhu, I'm happy you won the book distribution marathon. I'm happy you're number one. I just read a quote this morning. I don't know who wrote it. But he said, you can judge a person's character not by how they play the game but how they react when they lose. So everything may be good. I'm very happy when I win, but when I lose, and my godbrother or godsister wins, how do I react? So, on the Madhyam platform, we may have the impetus to react in an envious way, but we don't. We control that. That's Madhyam platform. We tolerate. And then we act according to what is proper action. Right? Sad achar. Sad achar doesn't mean you want to act that way naturally, but it means that's how you act, because you know it's the right thing to do. Sad achar, the right action. That's the Madhyam platform. Madhyam platform is there's a tendency for asad achar, to do the wrong thing. There's a tendency to think the wrong thing, but Madhyam platform, we will not act in the wrong way. We'll act in the right way. So, for example, there's a devotee. Somehow or other, you don't feel very happy when that devotee succeeds. Or, to be more blunt, you become very upset when that devotee succeeds beyond you. This happens, right? Has this ever happened to you? Somebody succeeds, or somebody is recognized, or somebody is facilitated, and you don't like it. And you're telling yourself, why are they not honoring me? Why are they not recognizing me? I've done more, or I'm just as good. This happens. How do we respond? How does a Madhyam Bhakta respond? They go to that devotee and they say, Prabhu, congratulations, I'm so happy for you. Why do they respond that way? Because on the Uttama platform, that's how they would feel. So we have to practice the sadachar of the Uttama Bhakta when we're on the platform of Madhya. And that means we're Madhyam because we can do the proper action even we don't have the proper feelings. And that's how we develop the proper feeling, by doing the proper action. Now sometimes devotees think if I don't have the proper thought or heart, I can't act properly. Now, that's wrong. Because if that were true, how could you practice bhakti? You would have to wait to develop the proper mentality, and you won't get the proper mentality unless you do bhakti. So bhakti is the position where we are able, sadhana bhakti, where we are able to do the proper thing even if the mentality is not proper. That's the trick. Sometimes you may be criticized. Nobody likes to be criticized unless they're very advanced devotees. Nobody likes to be criticized. And our natural tendency will be to criticize those who criticize us. Yes? Somebody says something nasty to you. The natural tendency will be to say something nasty to them. And you might end up saying something nasty to a few other people because you're upset. Or you'll say something nasty about them to them and to other people. He's so nasty. He said this to me. How should we respond to this situation? If ever you are criticized, if ever anyone is nasty to you, the proper way to react is to praise and appreciate other people. Immediately. As soon as you're criticized, go find a devotee and glorify him. Do the right thing. That's the right thing. Respond to the wrong thing with the exact opposite, which is the right thing. If you are discouraged, if somebody says, you want to do some service, and somebody says, you're useless, you'll never succeed. Why even try? You're too stupid to do that. You don't have the talent. You're just dreaming. Immediately go and find 5 people and encourage them in their service. That's how we should respond. You're discouraged, you go turn around and encourage 5 people. What's the option? Complain about the person who discourages you? So sadhana bhakti is in the stage of bhajana kriya, is learning how to act properly even when we don't feel like it. Just like last night we were giving a class, and I was telling the devotees about all the austerities we performed in the early days of ISKCON. Living in cold places in the winter with snow and no heat, taking showers with no hot water, sleeping on the floor, not even a mat, living in vans and traveling across the country, eating cereal 3 meals a day so we wouldn't waste time having to shop and cook. So many austerities. So I said, now most of us practically don't do any austerity. Life is comfortable. I mean, 30 years ago, living in India was one big austerity. Just to live here, you got credits for doing tapasya. Just to exist, it was one big tapasya. At least from what I remember. I came here in 1975. So that's like 37 years ago. It was one big austerity. To make a phone call was a huge austerity. Especially to call outside the country. Tremendous austerity. To find a phone that could call long distance. And then to actually connect through the operator. And half the time it wouldn't connect. You'd finally connect, they wouldn't hear you. You have to call back, and it'd take another 20 minutes to call back, and the call would be dropped. Just to make a phone call required tremendous amount of tolerance. But we see now, life here is very easy. Everybody has a nice car, everyone has a cell phone, nice apartment, nice prasadam, comfortable. Even the buses are getting better, right? Of course, the trains are the same. But so I was telling the devotees, I said, at least you should get up early in the morning. Do that much austerity. At least get up by 4 or 5 o'clock. That much austerity you should do. So naturally, the devotee says, many devotees say, but I don't feel like it. Now, imagine I were Srila Prabhupada sitting on this seat in 1975, and I told you to get up at 4 in the morning. Would any of you be brave enough to respond to Prabhupada by saying, I don't feel like it? Of course not, because you know what Prabhupada would say. So that doesn't matter. This is the instruction. This is good for you, and therefore you do it. So feeling in the stage of bhajana kriya, it's not the stage of feeling. That's the stage of ruchi or sakti. That's when you feel Krishna consciousness. So it's more spontaneous. But we still have all kinds of sand on our feet, so we don't feel it. So now we're learning how to act sadachar in spite of how we feel. So this devotee has criticized me. I am upset. I feel like telling other devotees how bad they are. But I don't. Instead, I find 5 devotees and I praise them. To switch it around. Because that's the right action. And then what does the right action do? It changes the subtle body. And another very important thing it does, when we do that, we actually become happy. And if we don't do that and we just criticize a devotee, we become more miserable. Right? So then we get to experience the happiness of acting in the right way, which then reinforces that action for the future. That is, according to this verse, the actions of the suras, the godly people. Now, if you read Bhagavad Gita, today's Gita Jayanti, so you go to the chapter Divine and Demoniac Natures, and Krishna elaborates on the divine and the demoniac. And then he says, the divine, who knows the verse? The divine qualities lead to what? What's the verse? Anybody know? Divine qualities lead to liberation. Demoniac qualities lead to bondage. Deva. Asuri. I forget the verse. Who knows? Somebody? Divine qualities are conducive to liberation. So, in order to make practice of Krishna consciousness flow naturally, more easily, more effectively, these divine qualities, we should manifest these qualities in our life. Because these are the qualities that Krishna says lead to liberation. As you can see in your own life, if you are not controlling the tendency to be envious or jealous, it makes devotional service quite difficult. If we're not controlling the tendency for lust or greed, it makes devotional service difficult. If we're not manifesting some compassion, some kindness, it makes it difficult. So these qualities, godly qualities, are actually necessary as part of the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, to at least manifest them externally before they actually manifest internally. That's the process. Right? Does that make sense? We come to Krishna consciousness, we have not fully manifested these qualities. We're not fully manifesting humility. We tend to manifest more on the side of arrogance than humility. Right? We tend to manifest more on the side of greed than simplicity. But then we have to switch it around and begin to practice those qualities. And then as you practice them, a very interesting thing happens. You begin to ask yourself, I'm practicing humility, but I don't have it. But I ask myself, because I want to develop it, then I ask myself, well actually, if I want to practice humility, I should understand the mentality behind it. So that naturally comes by practicing. You want to begin to understand the mentality behind the practice, so you can do it better. In other words, if I'm envious, and Mahatma is telling me, he's saying, well, go to the devotees and praise them, be kind, offer encouragement, even if I'm envious, then I naturally think, well, what is the mentality that would allow me to do that more freely, more naturally? I begin to inquire within my own heart.
I begin to pray to Krishna within my heart to please reveal to me the mentality that's required to actually do that honestly and genuinely. Right?
And then what does Krishna do? He begins to give us to alter that mentality. And then at some point, it begins to become quite natural to honor others, to be happy when others are successful, to not be envious, to not try to pull them down, to facilitate them. And then we become happy. You know, it says a devotee's happy, right? Right? Is that the quality of a devotee? He's blissful. But if you did a survey and asked devotees, are you really happy? How many would say yes? We can't really be happy if this envy and jealousy and all these other qualities remain in the heart. It's not possible. We can say we're happy. Yeah, I'm happy when I take prasadam. I'm happy when there's a nice kirtan or festival. But really, it's when we overcome these demoniac qualities, that's when we're happy. Isn't it? If somebody succeeds who you're competing with, and you honestly are happy, that's real happiness, isn't it? How can you be happy if you're not? Really, truly. Isn't it? Now what's really interesting that oftentimes we saw that Prabhupada was happy with the service of another devotee, but other devotees weren't happy with that devotee. But then you have a problem now, because your spiritual master is happy with someone and you're not happy with them. That's not good. But how can you be happy if you're not happy that your spiritual master is happy with somebody? But we saw these things happen. Bestow your mercy on him, Mahaprabhu told the devotees. No, if I give my mercy, he'll become more advanced than me. I'm not going to give it. That thought is there, isn't it? Maybe I shouldn't give my mercy. Maybe he'll outdo me. That's a demoniac way of thinking. How can we be happy if we think that way? We can't be happy. But I think even worse than that, the greater problem is we can't be effective in helping other people become Krishna conscious, if that's how we're thinking. So beyond just the action, we actually have to learn to be happy with the mentality that will ultimately create the action. That's where we want to come to. Right? I want to come to the point where I can be happy to see someone excel beyond me and outdo me. Prabhupada was happy he said, I'm happy if my devotees do better than I do. That was his happiness. Sometimes a disciple of Prabhupada excels in bhakti. And people think that excellence is minimizing Prabhupada. But actually Prabhupada is happy that they're excelling. Prabhupada's not thinking, oh, here's competition. He's going to be known as a bigger devotee than me. This is not good. You think Prabhupada would ever think like that? Of course not. So no devotee should think that way, because someone else is spreading Krishna consciousness. Sometimes we become jealous or envious. But that person is helping so many people. So why should we be unhappy that someone is helping so many people? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Does that make any sense? This devotee is helping so many people, and I'm envious of that devotee. I don't like it. So where's my heart if I feel like that? Crazy. I'm doing some writing on a certain topic, which I'm actually going to teach in the corporations, and I think it's very important. I think it's important for the corporations. I think it's important for the devotees. Hare Krishna. And that's actually understanding one's dharma in the sense of understanding one's abilities and one's liabilities. In other words, what are you good at and what are you not good at? Because it's just as important to know what you are good at as it is to know what you're not good at. Sometimes, and I think modern society has impregnated us with this wrong conception, which is so much against Vedic conception, it tries to push everybody into the same position. If you're successful, it looks like this. And so everyone's success is going to look the same, right? What does success look like materially? Power, influence, wealth. You're successful. You're famous. People know about you. You have influence, and you have a lot of money. Look at that car you're driving. You must be successful. Look at that house you live in. Oh, you must be successful. That's how it's measured. How many people listen to you? You must be successful. So I'll give you an example of something. A very interesting phenomenon. Just like right now, we have, let's say, 50 devotees, 60 devotees here. And so let's say, right now I gave a lecture about how all of you should go out and start your own business. Because if you start your own business, you can create your own hours. And you can employ other devotees. And you actually can make more money than you're making now working for somebody else. And I could give you so many reasons to start your own business. And I could show you all how to do it. But I can guarantee you that only some of you would be inspired by that idea. And others of you would say, that's too much trouble to start your own business. That's too much risk. Some of you would say, I don't even know how to start. I wouldn't even know how to do it. You would say, I just would rather work for somebody. I just get a paycheck, I come home, I don't have to worry. If that business falls apart, I'll get a job for another company. If that business falls apart and I own it, I lose everything. So why will some of you think that way, where others of you will run out the door in the middle of the lecture to go home and start figuring out how to start your business? Because we have different natures. And those of you who leave the class who don't start the business might feel really guilty, might feel quite unsuccessful, that Mahatma gave such a great class and I'm a failure because I couldn't do it. Why couldn't you do it? Because you had no inspiration to do it, because it's not your nature. It's not what you were meant to do. That's not who you are. You might walk out and think, that was a great class. I would like to teach a class like that. I don't want to start my own business. I just like to teach classes like that. Because you're a Brahmin. You don't want to go out and start a business. You want to teach people how to start businesses. But you don't want to start one. Or like I said, you think, no, I'd just rather work. That's simpler. That's a different mentality. That's not Vaishya mentality. That's the Shudra mentality. Nothing wrong with being Shudra. It's perfect mentality. And someone else says, no, I don't want to start my business. I just want to manage it. I'll develop the systems that run it. The strategies, the vision. He's more the Kshatriya type. I'll organize the troops. We'll get the job done. But I don't want to run it. I don't want to do that. So everybody's different. So sometimes we think someone else is doing something, we think, I should do that, and if I don't do that, I'm a failure. Big mistake. Huge mistake. success will look different for different people. So we should not be envious of the success of another, especially if we can't create it. But we should recognize, what can I do, and be happy with that. And then be happy that another person is successful, perhaps in an area in which I cannot be successful. That's called varna. Everybody has a varna. Well, our society is trying to put everyone into one varna. It's called the money varna. If you have a lot of money, you are successful. Like Prabhupada tells a joke. One man was asked a question. He said, "Dear sir, are you intelligent?" And he then put his hands in his pocket. And he said, "Why are you putting your hands in your pocket?" He says, "I'm counting my money." He said, "Why are you counting your money?" He said, "Well, if I have a lot of money, I'm intelligent." So that's the modern calculation. You're intelligent, you're successful, therefore you have a lot of money. And it creates unlimited anxiety, because some people, they have a dharma, they have a nature, and it's not going to be to make a lot of money, but it may be to help a lot of people. Or maybe to serve those who are making a lot of money, or serving those who are helping people. So we need to apply that within the devotional context, that we don't become envious or jealous, or not even, sometimes not even envious or jealous, just feel guilty that we can't succeed like another devotee. He's so good at organizing, and we think, something's wrong with me because I can't organize like that. And we can become depressed, upset, we can feel guilty. You find what you're good at, and you excel in what you're good at. You don't try to compete with other people, you compete with yourself. You'll be better than you were last month, or this is a new year coming, so be better than you were last year. You don't have to compete with anybody else. It doesn't make sense. I mean, in business you have to compete with other companies. So there's at least compete with people who do what you do. Don't compete with people who do what you can't do. So once you are more connected to what you can do for Krishna, and you're happy with that, then when other devotees are successful, you're happy they're successful, because it doesn't make you feel less important or less significant. Does that make sense? Otherwise it may make you feel bad. Something's wrong. The success of another person makes you feel that something's wrong with you. Why couldn't I succeed like that? There must be something wrong. Want to hear something really interesting that was going on during Prabhupada's time? He really trained us carefully to put an immense amount of trust in our temple authorities, and to work with them, and to serve them and help them. In fact, there were some devotees that went to Prabhupada and said, "Prabhupada, we want to work with you, but we don't want to work with the temple president or the GBC. But we'll serve you, we'll work with you." And Prabhupada said, "My order to you is to work with the temple presidents and the GBC." And they said, "No, we just want to serve you." And Prabhupada said, "That's how you serve me. You work with them. You support them, you help them." So, where there are devotees who are qualified to achieve things, we can help them. It's not a minimization of our own ego or our own value. We can help them. That's what Prabhupada wanted. It's just practical. Now, I want to explain something to you along this line. But maybe you're not fully aware of this. But Prabhupada, as I've said, he put a lot of emphasis on the authority structure within ISKCON and cooperating and working within it, even though it was difficult for many people. Especially, you're working with the temple president and you know you're more qualified than he is or she is. It's difficult, isn't it? So, imagine right now, yesterday or 2 days ago was supposed to be the end of the world according to the Mayan calendar. So let's say the world ended, but somehow or other, just the people here in Bangalore remained. Right? Everyone else is gone. And let's assume Shyam Sundar Prabhu was also on a trip, so he also, and his world ended along with everyone else's world, and only Bangalore remained. And now you realize you have to continue the movement. And some of you are going to have to take the position of Diksha Gurus amongst you guys sitting in this room. Or women. Now, controversy, should women do it? We won't discuss that, but the idea, okay, so there's more than you. There's a few hundred devotees, 500. And some of you are going to have to do it. Now just try to put yourself in that situation to determine, number one, who's going to do it, and what if that person, and what if you're not one of them that's doing it, but you think kind of you should, and you're not really happy about the one or ones that are doing it. And the one that's doing it is now sitting on the seat, and all the new people are taking Diksha from them, and that one that's doing it last week was just that devotee that you were sitting around with arguing with about all the stupid things he does. Well, Prabhus and Matajis, that's exactly what it was like when Prabhupada left. Exactly. You think, no, but my Guru Maharaj is so exalted. For you, yes. For God brothers, no. We don't say it like that. We just the one I was arguing with last week because they did something stupid. That's God brothers, right? For you, it's a completely different league. You don't see it that way. So that's how we see it as God brothers. And that's how we had to deal with it. Extremely difficult to actually admit, no, these devotees are a little more advanced, and even if they're not a little more advanced, but they're doing that service, so we need to respect it and support it. Very difficult. But the point is, we have to be connected with how we can best serve Krishna and be happy with our own qualifications, maximize them. And in that way, once we're happy within ourselves, we can support others and be happy about their success. Because if we're not happy within ourselves, it's very difficult to support others. Isn't it? I don't want you to be successful because I'm not successful and I'm miserable, so you can't be happy. I want you to be miserable also. Right? You have no right to be happy because I'm not happy. So I'm not going to let you be successful. That's not the mood. But that thought is there. So this modern conception that everybody has to be the same is very destructive. Everybody has their own gifts and their own talents. I'll give you an example that Prabhupada came to the Los Angeles temple. It's called New Dwarka. And he saw the deities. And he was so pleased that he went to the head pujari. He said, I'm so pleased with your service to the deities that by this service you will go back home, back to Godhead. And this was right in the midst of the book distribution fever. And in the book distribution fever, in the movement, which was particularly climaxing around 1975, 1976, it was like if you weren't a book distributor, the book distributors will look at you and think, what's wrong with you? How could you not be out on book distribution? Didn't you get it? Didn't you hear Prabhupada speak? Are you so weak? You have no backbone? It was almost looked at like that. And then Prabhupada comes into the temple that was distributing the most books in the world, and says to the pujari, this is perfect.
This service you're doing is perfect. I'm so pleased. This life you'll go back to Godhead by this service.
So that's the idea. Whatever service it is that you do, that you connect with, that's in your heart, you do it, and you do it as best you can, and you're satisfied. Another story, really nice story. Kind of the wrong story to tell during the marathon, but I hope you'll understand it in context. Prabhupada had a servant, and the servant was feeling like he could do more, because he was seeing all these devotees doing book distribution, and they were coming back very blissful. And he knew how happy Prabhupada was that they were distributing books. So he said, Prabhupada, can I go out and distribute books? And Prabhupada said, yes, but without my blessings. He said, your service is my servant. That's your service. That's what you do. So you can go out, but there are no blessings. So that was his service. Prabhupada saying, be happy with this service. This is your service. You do it perfectly. Be happy. Nothing's perfect, of course, but you do it as best you can. Be happy with that. So really, if you think about it, this situation we have in Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Mahaprabhu is asking everyone, show your mercy and blessings to Rupa Goswami. He's so successful in Krishna consciousness. How is that happening? Everyone is happy in Krishna consciousness, and because they're happy, they can freely bless everyone else. There's no envy there. But if we're not happy, then we become envious. Isn't it? You can't really undo this envy without being happy in your own life and your own service. I read this statement. It's so nice. It elaborates on this point. It clarifies. It said, people are frustrated with their own karma and envious of another person's karma. Why couldn't I be like that one? Why'd I have to be like this? I can't even sing. Or I can't manage my way out of a paper bag. But that's not the point. The point is, what can you do to serve Krishna? What talents do you have? What abilities do you have? What will satisfy you and satisfy your Guru and Krishna? That's all. It's not about what anyone else is doing. Be satisfied with whatever gifts Krishna has given you. And use those. And by using those, you'll be happy. That's all. Maybe you're not a great leader. That's fine. You can be a great follower. Actually easier to be a follower. One president of the United States, Abraham Lincoln, he said, men are not really tested in adversity, because somehow or other, no matter how difficult things get, people always find a way to tolerate them. He said men are tested when they're given power. So being a leader is not, you think I want to be a leader. It's not easy. It's a huge test, because you're given power. That's the real test. He said, you don't test a man in adversity, give him power. That's the real test. Then he's tested. So you think, I want to be a leader. Yeah, I want to be some big this or that. And then you get power and honor. Yeah. No. If you're a natural leader, it'll happen. And you'll be able to deal with it. So whatever it is you are, be happy with that. And that way, you can encourage everybody. Right? That's Varna. That's Varna. In Mayapur, Bhaktivedanta Purna Swami was giving a class, and he was saying, this word, the S word in ISKCON, the S word, what is it? Shudra. Don't say the Shudra word. Everybody thinks, oh, I'm a Shudra. I said, it's just an occupation. It's just a nature. It's not better or worse. He said, we're all Vaishnavas, we're transcendental. Ramananda Roy was Shudra. He was a manager of the government. That was a Shudra position. It's just a nature that one has. Not good or bad, it just is. So you recognize what your nature is. You use that in Krishna's service. Then it's good, it's all good. And you don't lament, oh, I'm a Shudra, I'm just a clerk in an office. All I can do is write numbers on a ledger. That's all I'm good for. No, that's what Krishna created you for. Right? Now, someone's got to do it, right? You give me numbers, my brain goes dizzy, I fall asleep. You give someone else numbers that wakes them up. You give them a book, they fall asleep. Right? You give me a book, it wakes me up. We all have different nature, right? I swear, I have my own business. When I would be doing the numbers, I'd be falling asleep. But if I were a real Vaishya, I'd be waking up with the numbers, right? That would be my life, is the numbers. I would wake up in the morning waiting to look at the numbers. Right? Isn't it? Vaishya? Just, what are the numbers? How did we do yesterday? What are we going to do today? How can we increase profits? That's Vaishya, right? Brahman is like, whatever, numbers, who cares? Whatever comes. That's why some of us Brahmins try to do business, but it never really gets big because we don't care. It can't be that big because we don't care enough. The Vaishyas, they live for money. They have like 28 businesses. They got crores of rupees coming out of their ears, and they start their 29th business. That's Vaishya. Isn't it? Right? There was this devotee. He was a total Pukka Brahmin. And his wife said, you useless bum, our daughter's marriage age. Get her married. He thought, Krishna will take care of her. Why you worry? Krishna will take care of it. He made no endeavor. You're Brahmin. The next day some man comes to knock. I'm looking for a wife for my son. He says, see, you have no faith in Krishna. He said, yeah, okay, that's all right, but we don't have any money. Yeah, Krishna will give the money, why are you worrying? He said, no, get off your butt, go out there and get the money. You're useless, so she takes her bangles off. She gives him the bangles. He says, go in the city and sell. He's a bhakta. He goes in the city on his way, he sees a katha. He's got 4 days to get the money to organize the wedding. He sees a katha, right? He looks at his watch. He's been in the katha for 8 days. He didn't even know what happened. The wedding's already over. Oh my God. He goes back to his village. In the village, everybody approaches him and says, my God, that was the most incredible wedding I'd ever seen. It was like a royal wedding. How did you do it? He's completely bewildered. His wife comes, hugs him. Thank you for organizing that. Those boys you sent, they brought everything we needed. He said, what boys? You know that blue boy and the white boy? So that's Brahman. Krishna will take care. Right? That's just a Brahman mentality. You can't make that, you put that person to run a business. It's not going to work. And you put the Vaishya to give bhagavatam class, he'll just preach, go out and make money. Raise money, we have this project, raise money, we need more money. Right? So everyone has their nature. And so don't curse your nature and be envious of another's nature, but maximize the benefits of your nature and use that for Krishna. Then you're happy and you won't be envious of other people. That's the whole trick. So, I have something to tell you. Very cool. What I want to do next weekend in the workshop is help devotees connect more deeply with their specific nature and their talents and their gifts, and then employ that in finding something which is exciting for them to do in the service of Krishna. Because if we're excited about service, and especially if we're excited about a service that is so connected with our skills and nature and our talents and our gifts, we will have no problem in Krishna consciousness. No problem. Do you realize that the greatest potential inspiration in your life comes from you, from nobody else? We think, no, I have to hear from my guru, I have to hear from the senior devotees to be inspired. Okay, that's true. But the greatest inspiration comes from within yourself. When you're connected with some service that you could do day and night and never get tired. That's where your greatest inspiration comes. So we want to connect with that more deeply. That's one of the things we're going to do. That's going to be very exciting. To help you find that gift, connect with it, and find His service as an outlet that totally inspires you. Because inspiration and enthusiasm is everything. Talent without inspiration and enthusiasm is useless. Not useless, but it's not very, doesn't do much. Inspiration is everything. Enthusiasm is everything. You can study great philosophers, great writers, they'll all say the same thing. Without enthusiasm, nothing ever gets accomplished. You know, during the war in Iraq, when it started, in America, this is how Americans were thinking when it started. We thought in 3 days it'll be over. We're going to go in, the big Americans are going to go in with their big brains and their big purses and their big weapons. In 3 days, the Iraqi people will be bowing down to them. And we all know what happened. They had a bit more enthusiasm to fight with a big superpower than the Americans thought. And they're still fighting us, right? And it's not easy for the Americans to get out of there. So enthusiasm is everything. So this is very, very important. Prabhupada said in a letter, he told the managers, he said, you should challenge the devotees in their service. Find a service that challenges them, because it will pull out of their heart more and more bhakti, and when they're inspired in their service, automatically their sadhana will follow. It'll just come naturally, byproduct. You won't have to worry about it, because there'll be so much inspiration. So this is very important. The more we're inspired and enthusiastic, the more people we will bring to Krishna consciousness. You know, enthusiasm is contagious. You ever notice that? Just go out on the street one day. If you want to do a fun experiment, we should get a video camera. Somebody should do it this week, and we could show it at the workshop. Just go to a crowded part of Bangalore and look up and go like that. And pretty soon there'll be a whole crowd of people looking up. This one man put on some sunglasses, put on a hat, and arranged cameramen to follow him and a group of people to follow him. So he looked like somebody famous. So he's walking down the street in New York, and pictures are being taken and people are following him. Pretty soon, like 300 people were following him down the street. And then he disappeared, took off his sunglasses, his hat, and he just walked down the street. An hour later, nobody. So you make a little ruckus, a little enthusiasm, and then people follow it. So enthusiasm is very important for us. So that is one of the highlights of the workshop is that'll be on the second day. On the first day, we have to get rid of all the things that would be getting in the way of coming to the second day of connecting. Because even if you connect, if you have inhibitions in yourself and you lack confidence in yourself, and you have too many anarthas getting in the way, the enthusiasm won't fully manifest. So I'm looking forward to the second day. It's going to be very exciting. I'll tell you a nice story. I don't know, I don't know how much you know about Disney World. Has anyone ever been to Disney World in Florida? That's 2, 3, 5 people. Okay. So, Disney World is in this huge tourist area of Florida. Just hundreds of hotels and different attractions there. When Walt Disney went there, that was actually in the middle of nowhere. There was nothing there. It was out in... And Disneyland, I think, is supposed to be as big as Manhattan. It's huge. It's like big as the whole island of Manhattan, that to the home of like 10 million people or something. It's huge. This huge place in the middle of nowhere. I mean, totally, nobody lived there. It was just farm. There was nothing near there. 20, 30 miles away from anything. And he had a vision. He just had this vision, and it all made sense in his mind. So before Disneyland was built, he died. And when the CEO and his wife came to Disneyland to inaugurate it, the CEO said, "It's too bad Walt isn't here to see it all." And she said, "Oh, he saw it all very clearly. He saw this very clearly." So it was just a dream, it was just a vision. Like the CEO is seeing it, and she's telling him, no, whatever you're seeing, he saw long ago. Very, very clearly so. So when there's an inspiration, there's a vision, and then it begins to manifest. So there's so much potentially more, there's so much potentially we could all be doing more with a little more enthusiasm, connected to who we are, not to who someone else is, but who we are and what we can offer and what we can contribute. And we'll do more and we'll be happier. And that way we'll bring more people to Krishna consciousness. That's the goal, right? Go back to Godhead and bring as many people as you can with you. That's the goal. Not to go alone. Right? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.